All right, let's jump right in. We're going to unpack a really foundational text in religious Zionism to get to the heart of one of its most powerful arguments, this idea of an inseparable link between the Jewish faith and the land of Israel. So how does the text actually build this case? Well, it all kicks off with one single, really powerful idea. This one sentence right here is basically our roadmap for this whole thing. The author, Rabbi Yisahar Shlomo Teichtal, he makes the case that these two concepts, the Torah and the land, they're not just, connected. No, he says they're a single package deal. They're two companions on the very same journey. And he builds his entire argument on one specific Hebrew word. So the core of the puzzle is this. In the Torah itself, both the scripture and the land of Israel are described with the exact same word, morasha. And the author just stops and asks why. What is this word really telling us about the nature of both of these claims? Okay, so morasha means inheritance, but we're not just talking about getting your grandmother's antique table. This word implies something much deeper, a legacy, something passed down through the bloodline that's meant to be permanent, a part of your very identity. It's less about something you have and more about something you are. And believe me, this distinction is everything. The author basically breaks it all down into two ways of claiming something. On one side, you've got purchase or conquest. This is stuff you get through your own hard work or your own logic or maybe even by force. The thing is, it's fragile. It can always be challenged or lost. But then you've got the other side, inheritance, morasha. This isn't about what you've earned, it's about what's been passed down to you. It's a claim based on identity, and as the text argues, that makes it fundamentally unchallengeable. So let's take this idea and apply it to the first piece of the puzzle, the Torah. Why is it so crucial for this argument to frame the Torah not as some philosophy you choose to believe in, but as an inheritance that you receive? Well, a huge part of the argument comes down to this one number, 600,000. According to Jewish tradition, that's how many adult men were standing at Mount Sinai experiencing the revelation of the Torah with their own eyes and ears. This wasn't some private vision one guy had. It was a massive, public, national event. And this is where the author, leaning on the great philosopher Maimonides, makes a really radical point. He says, the claim to the Torah's truth isn't based on complex philosophical proofs that you can debate and poke holes in forever. Nope. It's based on a shared, witnessed experience, passed down like an inheritance from parent to child, generation after generation. It's the testimony of 600,000 ancestors, basically saying, hey, we were there, we all saw it. And this, the text suggests, is precisely why it survived for so long. Think about it. It's faced attacks by the sword, brute physical force, and it's faced attacks by intellectual argument from critics and philosophers. But you can't really conquer an inheritance with a sword, and you can't debunk a shared ancestral memory with a logical proof. It's like they're using the wrong tool for the job. It just operates on a totally different level. Okay, so that's the Torah side of the equation. Now let's shift gears and see how the author applies this exact same morasha logic to the physical land of Israel. If the Torah is an inheritance, what does that mean for the land? First things first, the text sets up the land of Israel as being unique, theologically speaking. In its kind of mystical worldview, other nations and lands were put under the authority of various angelic forces, these so-called princes. But the land of Israel, it says, God kept that as his own personal portion, under his direct supervision. So this special piece of land was then promised out as an inheritance. The text lays out the steps pretty clearly. It starts with Abraham's incredible act of faith. The reward for that faith was the promise of the land. And, this is the key part, that promise was explicitly framed right from the start as an inheritance, something to be passed down. So the whole point is this. According to this text, the foundational claim to the land isn't conquest. It's not some deed of purchase. It's a divinely granted inheritance. And in this whole framework, that makes it a claim that can't just be undone by a bigger army or a better argument. But, and this is a huge but, there's a twist. This is the moment where everything clicks into place. This is where those two companions, the Torah and the land, get locked together for good. Because it turns out an inheritance isn't always unconditional. Which brings us to the big question, one the text itself asks. Can an heir actually lose their inheritance? And to answer that, the author points to a really famous story from the Bible, the case of Ishmael. Now, Ishmael was Abraham's firstborn son. Biologically, he's the heir, right? But because of his behavior, which was seen as going against the family's core values, Sarah demands that he be disinherited. His actions put his inheritance on the line. And God's response is the key to the whole argument. God agrees with Sarah, saying that Abraham's true legacy, his true offspring, will be carried through Isaac. So the text argues, being an offspring of Abraham isn't just about your bloodline. It's about your behavior. It's about upholding the spiritual and ethical path of your ancestors. And bam, there it is, the synthesis of the entire argument. The inheritance of the land, that's morasha number 1, is conditional on upholding the inheritance of the Torah, morasha number 2. You can't truly claim one without the other. To be a worthy heir to the land, you have to act like a worthy heir to the Torah. They are two sides of the same coin. So you might be asking, why does any of this ancient theology matter today? Well, the author, who was writing this during the horrors of the Holocaust, applies this entire framework directly to the modern and often very secular project of building a Jewish state. And he asks a question that is frankly pretty shocking for a religious text. He asks, can someone who doesn't follow the Torah, even someone you might call a sinner, can they still do something holy? Can they still advance God's plan? And his answer is pretty surprising. He points to the biblical king Omri. Now, Omri is described as one of the most wicked, idolatrous kings, just a bad dude all around. And yet, because he built a new city in the land of Israel, the text says he was rewarded by God with a long-lasting dynasty. This just shows the immense, almost independent value the author places on the physical act of building and settling the land. From this, he draws a really stunning conclusion for his own time. He says that even these secular, non-religious pioneers who were building the modern state, they were performing a profoundly holy act, whether they knew it or not. The physical act itself has incredible merit. But, and this is a huge but, he delivers a final powerful warning. For the whole national project to actually last, for that claim of inheritance to truly hold firm, the physical building has to be grounded in that spiritual foundation, the Torah. The body and the soul, they can't be separated. The historical claim is real, but that behavioral condition, well, it has to be met to secure it for the long run. And that leaves us right here, with a central tension of this entire text. It establishes this powerful, permanent claim based on history and inheritance, but then it insists that this claim is only truly secured by present and future behavior. So which one is it? What's the ultimate deed to the land of Israel? History or behavior? A question that sits at the very heart of this entire argument.